All right, Jim, let's start with Dawson and the petition tabled in the National Assembly this morning. So almost 20,000 signatures. They wanted 30, trying to get the CAQ to reverse the decision on funding Dawson. They keep saying the same thing, which is that they want to prioritize Francophone institutions. And all I'm thinking is everything boils down to language with this party, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, and they've just started. I mean, on the one hand, I guess the most depressing thing is I still like to think there's more than 30,000 Anglos or non-Francos or people who just simply see this as the dirty, lousy, low-down, politically motivated, identity-based double-cross that it is.
Oh, yeah, that.
That said, and they still couldn't get 20,000. I find that's a bit depressing.
Me too.
But on the other hand, maybe a lot of people have just shrugged and given up, and they figured this is, and as you say, this is the brand for the Coalition Avenir Québec, okay? The brand is there's got to be a bad guy, there's got to be a threat. I mean, they are basically proceeding and have always proceeded with the policy that, there's a group of politicians and commentators in this province who basically their work, their job, is to make as many Francophone Quebecers as terrified as possible about anything that doesn't look, sound, or think like them. Mm-hmm. And you've seen it in the past. You've seen it with the legislation that they ran through with closure in the National Assembly. So whether it was the legalized discrimination contained in Bill 21, the soon-to-be legalized discrimination contained in Bill 96. This is what the CAQ does. This is what the CAQ is going to run on in the next election because, quite frankly, it has nothing else to offer the people of Quebec. Yeah. It has successfully created a mythology since 2018 that it was elected to protect the identity of the Quebec nation. This is as big a load of provable rubbish as any member of that party has ever expressed. The idea that that somehow we are under siege by immigrants and must be protected. We're under siege by English and must be protected. We're under siege by the entire world and must be protected against that. This is what they do, and it now the ball is in the court of the people of Quebec. Mm-hmm. And if they want to shrug and say, you know what, that's fine, that's okay, go ahead. And these guys will win a second term. But just remember, folks, they only have one rabbit in their hat. They keep pulling it out, and it's starting to get a little mangy. The idea here is that is Quebec prepared to adjust its economy in a post-pandemic world to deal with the issues of inflation and the other unexpecteds that all economies are going to be buffeted with over the next year at least? Well, the answer, quite simply, is no. Right now, the biggest crisis in Quebec is not English. The biggest crisis in Quebec is not immigration. The biggest crisis in Quebec right now that it's going to affect each and every single one of us is the fact we don't have enough people to do the job. Mm-hmm. In all sectors. We focus on the healthcare network, but the penury of labor in this province, and it's shared elsewhere, but this is our number one priority. We don't have the people to fill the jobs that need to be filled. And to quote Manon Massé of Québec Solidaire, it seems that the Legault government's idea of the perfect immigrant is a millionaire from Belgium or France.
Oh, yeah.
But apart from that, there's usually a problem with somebody else. This is what we're staring right in the face. This is the issue, frankly, that should be debated before October 3rd, but it won't be. It won't be because François Legault and company and his entourage will turn around and find some other threat to the Quebec nation, some other threat that will play, of course, it'll fall flat in its face in Montreal, in the real world, but in CAQ land, in the regions where, Montreal is this misty, rather shadowy, mysterious island on the horizon that, seems to cause all the problems in Quebec. Well, that it'll play there. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that the pandemic gave these people a 2-year pass mm-hmm. to essentially continue to do this, to not face any scrutiny in the National Assembly, to rule by decree, and that's it. But as for the petition,
It's
I
disappointing.
appreciate the effort. However, it is nothing more than a symbolic gesture, and like every symbolic gesture, it'll achieve absolutely nothing.
All I keep thinking is I don't want to be the bad guy. We don't want to be the bad guys. And I will give Legault this. He is the master of distraction, right? My question of the day coming up, by the way, is going to have to do with like representation. If you feel represented as an allo or an anglophone. I want to get this in though. At the presser today, it was announced, of course, Quebec moving to end the state of emergency. And a reporter asked Health Minister Christian Dubé something along the lines of like, are we stuck in Groundhog Day here? Tightening restrictions over and over. He said, we know there's another wave coming. How are we not going to get caught with our pants down? Here's Dubé's answer, Jim.
Well, I think we have different tools that we had before. And I think the way we're monitoring on an international basis, the way we look at it, all the experience that we got in terms of depisting on sequencing, all the things that we've learned, I think we said all along we need to be able to live with that COVID. We need to. And I think we're ready for that.
Are we ready for it? I mean, I don't think...
I'd say who's we, Monsieur Dubé?
Yeah.
No, really.
No, you're right.
I realize he's translating. He's thinking in French. On est prêt pour ça. But when he says "on," he means speak for yourself, buddy. As I mentioned yesterday, I have a friend of mine who had basically dodged the bullet for 2 years. She gets hit. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who are being diagnosed. I mean, it's interesting as well how they have. Really, the real effort this government has done in dealing with the pandemic is to make sure it gets spun in as unnegative a manner as possible. Remember, we dropped case counts. We used to have case counts every day. Now it's hospitalization.
Not even testing. Right?
People in the ICU. Well, these numbers tell you how the health network is doing, which is presumably what's keeping the politicians up at night because they've left it in such a shambles that it can't take much pressure. But if you want to have some indication of how widespread or not this pandemic is, this disease is, well, case counts were the way to go. We're seeing double-digit increases in Western European countries this week. And I'm sure the case count is going up here in Quebec and in Montreal. But God forbid we should get those numbers because they made a difference. Mm-hmm. You knew if you had 2,000 cases in one day, you go, oh, geez, I better watch out. If you knew you had 300 new cases in one day, you figure, well, we might be onto something here. But all that said, on the one hand, they're saying we're lifting the state of emergency.
They're not really,
saying,
though.
We're not lifting the state of emergency at all. It's still going to be there. We're keeping this in our back pocket. So the question is, why make this announcement? Why adopt this strange little law that sort of officially lifts the state of emergency? Well, it's like everything else this government does. It is mise en scène, smoke and mirrors in time for the next election. So they can actually say, we got you through this. And to hear, in another clip, Christian Dubé say, for most Quebecers, this is over. I got news for you. It isn't.
No.
Most Quebecers, I would respectfully submit, and lest we forget, most Quebecers live in the greater Montreal area, are still looking over their shoulders, are still checking their own temperature and their kids' temperature, are still scooping up tests that they can do at home because you don't know where this is. And God forbid the government should tell us straight up where it is. So in the end, to a certain extent, as I've said before, we're being patted on the head, told we're on our own. But come election day, we'll be told, well, this is the government that looked after you. This is the government that got you here, which, of course, is as nonsensical as their rationale for essentially blowing up, doing a double cross on the Dawson College expansion. They'll say and do whatever they want simply because the audience that they're talking to isn't where all these events are being played out. Mm-hmm. And that audience is the one that's going to get them elected.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And if they're so confident that it's over, Jim, why do they want to hang on to being able to bring back, all the mandates? So, they want to be able to bring back the vaccination.
Which no, don't get me wrong. That is smart. But if you're going to do that, why go through this ridiculous little vaudeville of saying you're lifting the state of emergency?
Well, they're really good at it. They're really, really good at that. We'll give them that, Jim.
It's a little political dog and pony show that they're putting on for the folks back home in CAQ land, as I say. If you live in Montreal, believe me, you're not going to go tonight heaving a big sigh saying, "Well, thank goodness that's over."
Nope. Thanks, Jim. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Adamant.